You bet. You co-authored a recent report entitled China's Foreign Technology Wish List, which looks at how China's science and tech diplomats working out of embassies and consulates across the world act as brokers to acquire foreign technology. And the report notes that artificial intelligence, machine learning are sort of near the top of that wish list. Can you discuss the role that these science and tech diplomats play in acquiring foreign technology? And what else are you seeing in the areas of AI and machine learning in particular?
Of course. So, so I think what the role of S&T diplomats, what it really highlights is the depth and breadth of China's tech acquisition bureaucracy, as we lay it out in this report. And this is based on Chinese language documents that we have mined and acquired. So it's all open source material. That there's a demand signal, and so the entity in China requests or highlights that they have a gap, either in technology or knowledge, that goes to a central database, and then it's actually farmed out across the world. And what's interesting about this is it really shows a nuanced understanding of where that technology is located and where to find that. And as you mentioned, the two things, the highest that showed up the most in our research was both AI, machine learning, and actually biotechnology. And one of the hub of activity for that in the United States was the Houston consulate.
Very interesting. The CCP has leveraged individuals outside of government to pursue technology transfer, targeting foreign researchers and business leaders in order to transfer that technology back to the PRC. Can you walk us through any examples that are particularly illustrative, either in academia or in the private sector, just to give folks a sense for like how this tactic really plays out in real life?
So what I'll speak to is a specific methodology that we see, and then, sorry, is that better? Okay, sorry about that. So what is interesting in both, as in my previous iteration working for, we always get questions about, okay, what is the list, right? What is the technologies that are being sought? And we do have that in a very general sense. But what makes that so challenging is what we call China's use of non-traditional collectors. And so these are actually the experts that are working on a particular area, working on a particular project, that are the ones that are targeting the technologies. What makes it so hard to counter a lot of times is initially some of these relationships begin as legitimate, whether they be collaborations or individuals that either join universities or join companies. But China has a number of policies, and one of the ones that I think pertains to this particular type of targeting of technology is one called serve in place. And it's something that we've seen reflected in Chinese policy documents since the early 90s. And it articulates that they seek to leverage individuals who are not living in China, who don't have any intention to go back, and they reach out to those people to fill strategic gaps, and increasingly even more so is the technological know-how. And so the how do you do things, how do you do quality control, how do you move technology out of the lab?
Wow. Mr. Pottinger, could you talk a little bit more about semiconductor manufacturing and fabrication, and how would you rate our efforts so far at trying to start the process of bringing that back to domestic production, and what additional efforts would you recommend?
Thanks, Senator. So the majority of the world's highest end chips are actually made in Taiwan by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation. China has put well over $100 billion in subsidies into trying to replicate what Taiwan's able to do, and with very mixed results. In fact, they've not been able to replicate what Taiwan does, but what they are now trying to do, having recognized the fact they can't make chips at the bleeding cutting edge the way that Taiwan makes them, China's trying to make chips that are a couple of generations older than the chips that Taiwan makes. Now, older does not mean worse, because in fact, the device I'm talking to you on right now, or a personal smartphone is made up of, 10 chips. Maybe only one of which is the really cutting edge chip. The others, which control graphics and voice and cameras and things of that nature, are older technology chips, which make up a massive segment of the market. They're still extremely important, and they can be leveraged in ways to make them greater than the sum of their parts, depending on how creatively you tie these things together. So what we do in the United States, we don't make that many chips anymore. We have a couple of exceptions. There's a company called Global Foundries in upstate New York that makes chips that are a couple of generations older. But it turns out that our military, most of our equipment runs on chips that are a couple of generations or more older because those systems stay in place for so long. So it's been critical that we have a certain amount of manufacturing here at home. We also, where we really lead is in the design of chips and also in equipment that's used in the fabrication of the chips. So those are areas where we want to do a better job, more strategic job of looking holistically at how we can deny China its very deliberate and clear objective of making itself completely independent and making us increasingly dependent on their supply for semiconductors, which until we have another technology are absolutely essential to every area where we want to compete in the innovative economy.
Thank you.